Hello and welcome to what is called High Interviews number 9 now. We're almost at number 10 and there's been an amazing few of interviews. Today I'm joined by George and Joe. George and Joe, they're some of Jasper's amazing mates I've had on a previous episode and they've got some amazing stories themselves. So just to sort of kick into it, Joe, why don't you kick us off with your favourite worship song?
Oh, my favorite worship. Okay, that's kind of a tough one on the spot.
Mm.
I think it's by Maverick City, or maybe it's Elevation Worship. It's kind of embarrassing, I don't know that. But it's the, it's the Firm Foundation. Is it? I think it is Maverick City. It's the Firm Foundation one, but
Mm.
it's the one with like it's got like a rap at the end of it, like a drill remix one. It's good, yeah. If you haven't listened to it, it's worth the 10 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
some of the Maverick City songs like
Yeah, some of them are
15
so
minutes
long.
long.
Some of them are so long, but it's really good.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. George, go on then, on the spot, favourite worship song?
Well, fortunately, because I met Jasper, I got into the old Governor B. So,
Oh,
it's one of his old ones. Don't Give Up on Trying has been going through my earphones so much recently. It is such a banger. Yeah, pure rap, 100% recommend.
Can't
nice.
say I've listened. I have listened to a bit of Governor B, but I can't say I've listened to that one. So maybe that'll be afterwards. I'll have a bit of Governor
For
B
sure,
on.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah,
100%.
no, it's so amazing. So obviously you're both Christian, as we were saying beforehand. You were telling me earlier, you've both grown up in Christian families. But I'm just gonna, George, you can go first this time. But let's sort of like tell us all about a bit about like your life, your journey, what you get up to. It doesn't have to be just faith related, but just so we know who you are, and then you can say about your journey in faith.
Yeah, amazing. So right now, I am still really blessed to be at Bennett, and surrounded by some great people. And yeah, no, I just chilling at the moment. Obviously, got exams coming up, so that's obviously on my mind. But we're holding this great Youth Alpha course, which is really, impacting others, but it's impacting the whole team. To be honest, it is so incredible to be a part of. So that is kind of the main focus um, at the moment. Yeah, no, it's just really amazing to be a part of. To be honest,
Yeah, so obviously that's sort of like current. Let's just take us right back to obviously the start.
baby George.
Take us back to day. I mean, you don't have to like go straight back to the start, but take us and just
In
like
the
walk us
beginning.
through your testimony as such, and just walk us through your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was brought up in pretty much a split household. So my mum's Christian, my dad not so much. But that didn't mean I went to church on Sundays. Um, and that was all from kind of really super young up until about probably 8 years old. And it was totally out the window in secondary school. So start of year seven, I wasn't doing anything in the church, wasn't kind of thinking about it at all. I said I was Christian, you know, that let's be real, I had no relationship with Christ. And so that was kind of where I was at the start of secondary. A few years went on to about year nine and ten, and I met some really amazing people, such as Joe, such as Jasper.
Man.
Um, yeah, no, I think, um, I mean, previously before that, I had a friend group, but it wasn't necessarily the right one for me. Um, I had friends. I wasn't kind of just sitting at school on my own in the corner. But I don't think I was purely 100% happy with where I was in my life. I knew I wasn't doing the right things, and deep down, I just knew I was better than what I was doing at the time. Um, and so I met some great people, and it was so shocking to me at first, to have people around me being so nice, and I was kind of so shocked in that moment. I was like, what have I been doing for the past like 3 years? Like I can have these great people around me who can really support me through some tough times. Um, and I think that was just the element of having that faith in your friends. Um, and so, yeah, no, months and months went on, and really built a great bond with this friendship group. Um, but unfortunately, it was actually me and Jasper who had a bit of a tangling, a bit of a disagreement, and that ultimately altered. ultimately ended up in us pretty much hating each other. We despised each other. We couldn't really look at each other, didn't say a
Yeah.
word to each other, purely just utter hatred. And that was terrible. I mean, that was not nice. I kind of drifted away from the group and went back to that old kind of surrounding. And I'm not at all blaming kind of the people that I was around. But it just wasn't great for myself and my kind of like personal growth.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, it was a few months kind of in that period where kind of alcohol and stuff like that started to kind of make kind of ingrains in me and nearly almost completely consume me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was really, really. I'm not afraid to admit it. It was scary. It was absolutely frightening. And it's even worse when you don't say anything about it. Which is why I try to encourage so many people to kind of open up about things that are really kind of affecting them deep down,
Yeah.
because that was what was happening to me, and it put me in a really bad place where I just didn't want to be here. It got to such a bad point that I was like,
Mm.
I could go tomorrow, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
So, and that was really terrifying. But I'll link it back. It was lunchtime at my school, and I was actually just playing a game of catch with a friend with a tennis ball. Honestly, such a simple thing, so innocent.
Yeah.
I was playing game of catch with a mate with a tennis ball, and I pick him out in the distance. He's probably about 10, 15 meters away from me,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what? For some reason, I'm gonna absolutely pelt this one. I'm a properly cannon, just unleash it.
Joe knows
Uh,
what's about to happen.
Yeah, I
He's
do. I know.
smirking.
I know.
And so, yeah, I just absolutely unload this thing. But I kind of I aim, and then my hand just goes about 10 meters to the left and misses the guy completely and hits Jasper straight in the head. And I'm like, oh my days, what have I just done? I haven't spoken to this guy for months. He hates me. I hate him. All my days, that might be the end. I might have just absolutely messed up there. Um, so I go running up to him. I'm like, Jasper, I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I just have really bad throwing. Um, and he kind of just looks at me like he didn't say anything. He didn't say, "Oh, yeah, that's right." He just kind of like, I was like, "Okay, you know what? That's fine. I'll just go back to playing throw. I'll just go back to playing my game." Um, and so a couple of days kind of go on from that, and he comes up to me and he says, George, can I speak to you for a second? And I was like, oof,
I
started getting
suppose.
sweaty. Yeah, I started a bit nervous, a bit sweaty. And he just pulls me to the side and says, I think we should just kind of put our past in the past, leave it there, and I'd like you to come to my church. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I'm not sure about the church thing, but I'm happy to kind of put things in the past and maybe try and build on something. And so, yeah, that led to me going to his youth group on one of the Fridays. Um, and honestly, since then, it's just gone up and up. My faith has fully formed. I'm a soldier of Christ, and I've got my best mate back. So, yeah, that's pretty
Tough.
cool. Yeah.
It's amazing. I think it's there, like the fact that obviously you're talking about those hard times, like those times where it's been real low, and it's the fact that you've managed to come out of them and it's not permanently low. And like obviously in Christianity you get that illusion like these chains holding you back, these devils are like chains on you, and it's known like the song break every chain, like Jesus breaks all these chains, maybe link by link or such, and he breaks all those bonds on you and he calls you back to him. I think that's a perfect example there of like, and honestly, like just coming back to him, and whether that's through a friend of Jasper just encouraging you, or just coming back to him, I think it's an amazing thing. And then we'll just slide on right over to you, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Pop over to the other side of the screen.
What a bit about your life, a bit about your faith, and yeah,
Yeah, everything else in between.
yeah,
Yeah, of course. I mean, I wish I had a more interesting story, to be honest. But I think, to be honest, I don't know. I think there's some people that kind of have these, like they get hit with like Jesus just goes, "Hey," in their life. It just goes like, wake up kind of thing. And that's great, and that that's wicked if that's happened to you, whoever you are. But I've not had that experience, and as in, that wasn't the case for me. I kind of definitely have grown up in it. Both my parents are Christian, and I've grown up definitely like in the church. I've always gone to the same church, in Tunbridge Wells. Big up St John's Church. Bit of promo in there, shameless promotion. Anyway, big up St John's Church. Yeah, so went to St John's Church, and I've always been there since a kid. I went to all the kind of like the Sunday school, and I'm still at the youth group now, and it's wicked, and I love it. I think definitely it was kind of a few years ago where I kind of just decided, like, there are, again, we're kind of similar to George with the friend group kind of thing. I'm looking around and I'm going, there's actually other young people like me who are going through the motions and, like, growing up and whatever, and they think Jesus is pretty cool as well. And I was like, oh, and they're independent from their parents, and they're not, necessarily thinking about mum and dad's faith and what they've been teaching you and whatever. Obviously, mum knows best, so you follow your mum anyway. But I'm saying, you know, it was definitely more of like an active choice to make the
Yeah,
faith my
yeah.
thing, and I kind of chose to get confirmed a few years ago, and obviously that's just kind of like a reaffirmation of your baptism vows, which I was baptized as a child, so obviously you got kind of gets like reaffirm that, and I can't say that definitive moment was like became a Christian for yourself kind of thing. But I definitely started kind of doing more. At that point, those who know me, I perform a lot. I like playing. I play the bass, so
Oh,
I started
really?
playing bass. Yeah. I started for you. You're a moron. I started playing bass in church. Actually, a while before I got confirmed, but I started playing bass in church and kind of like just serving more, doing more. I also started going to a church camp. It's called Sparkford, in summer, and I tell you, man, Sparkford and like church camps and that like community, that kind of like you're surrounded by everyone who is in the same place as you, basically, or along that same line. I can't say how encouraging that is. Um, I'm sure I know George has been done satellites and
Yeah.
maybe New Wine and some other things like that. I'm not sure if have you done any of those kind of
I've
things.
been at satellites as well, actually.
Yeah,
I've been at
yeah, he's
Yeah,
done that,
come
and
on.
yeah, 100%. But no, so like you guys can definitely vouch. And I mean, like that for me, actually, if I was gonna give a testimony as to terms in terms of when my faith really got strong, it had to be Sparkford. And I'm booked in. I booked in by the minute this year. Like as soon as I can get a place, I booked. And it's that encouragement that you get from seeing people who are struggling as you're struggling, and from seeing people who are not sure as you're not sure, and also seeing people who are dead sure when you're trying to be dead sure, and that's really helpful. Um, but yeah, in terms of right now. I'm really enjoying getting into more like worship music, like playing and leading worship music. I'm trying to get into that kind of scene, because I mean I like Jesus and I like music, so I was like,
put it together,
it,
yeah.
it, it works, yeah. So that
Yeah.
that makes sense. So yeah, in terms of right now, I'm definitely sure I'm firm in Christ.
Yeah, 100%. I love that bit there about, like, for me, 100%. One of the main points of my faith was actually discovering there's more Christians out there my age,
Yeah,
and they're actually like,
mm,
they think like the Jesus is cool. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
and they,
afraid.
yeah,
I think so often it's like that step of actually going from not just being like Christian because your parents are Christian as such, and that actually
mm,
personal faith and realizing like it's a cool thing to be Christian. It's not something to
yeah,
be ashamed of or something as such. It's actually knowing like these people are out there. They're cool people.
100%.
They're encouraging. And I think for me as well, Satellites was an amazing way of knowing
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
tons and tons of Christians out there, similar age, going through different things like you're saying. And it's good to surround yourself with people from all the different stages because you can encourage other people, learn from other people,
Yeah, I
and
was
in
gonna say, I
turn
think
definitely.
this is,
build yourself up.
I think that's where kind of a lot of people kind of who have gone out of faith is that's where they most struggle because a lot of people were brought
Yeah,
up in that church, maybe in the shadow of one of their parents' faiths, and I know
mm,
so many people that had that and never got to experience, what it was like to have it their self.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I
by
think that's
yourself.
where
Yeah.
where people really struggle when they come out of the church when they're young and they have no idea what to do. You know,
Yeah, because
it's
you get cut off from that community of people that you would have kind of been with around whole time. And obviously, yeah, if you're kind of if you're like some 15 or whatever, you're kind of like you're mid-teens and you've got no you're investigating Jesus and you've got no one else who's your age, your vibe, who's gonna know how to help you with that. It's really hard. But yeah, surrounding yourself with those people is really
I think
good.
that's one of the best ways. Yeah.
Yeah, big church festival as well is absolutely
Oh,
banging. It's
amazing.
so good. It's so good. Again, music lover, even if you're not a music lover, get yourself to big church festival. It is so wicked.
I'm
And I
yet to
mean,
book on this year, but I am going.
yeah, I was there. I'm
I'll
going to
be
book
there.
on this year as well. But yeah, I've definitely got to be there. And I mean, you kind of get it then. You're like, damn, there's 40,000 Christians, and then, like, do you know what I mean? You're there, like I knew there were a few billion, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like, there's actually 40,000 of them here now, and you go, oh wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like, especially when you're like, hey, actually, there's a group of young people there who seem
Mm,
pretty cool at a Christian
yeah,
festival. Like, what?
it's so mad. It's so mad.
Yeah, I think it's seeing, acknowledging. I think that's partly to us to be open about our faith. So that's cool to us to be open
Mm,
about our faith to other people, but also to be to be welcoming as well and be like, because a lot of the times I've found people, if you have these conversations with them, they're actually like, oh yeah, my parents went to church, or like all
yeah,
of this.
yeah,
It's like it's afraid to speak out as such.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, so obviously that's sort of like summed up a bit about your guys' faith, but let's sort of focus more on the Christianity side of it and the such of like why you guys. So obviously you guys have said about sort of that like why and how you guys chose Christianity, but why should other people choose it? What's the point in choosing it over being just a good person? Like obviously the Bible's
Mm,
morals and all of those things they teach us. That's how to be a good person as such. Why have that relationship with God as well as just being a good person? So
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. George, do you have anything to say or?
Yeah, no,
I'll
I'd
go.
love to kind of touch on
yeah,
this
George.
because I think this is a very kind of debated topic, especially over the why.
Yeah, yeah.
So many people struggle to think about why should we do this? What's the point? And to me, kind of definitely establishing myself, I found out that the amount of evidence that there is out there, it is insane.
Mental.
All people need to do is just do a little bit of research, read a bit of the Bible, and they'll realize. I mean, there was a university in Arizona that conducted a bit of research. I think it was in 2020, and they were kind of like discussing over the reliability of the Bible, and it was a massive project. And they found that they could confidently say that 99.5% of the Bible was truly reliable, geographically, archaeological, and historically, and the other 0.5% they knew what the possibilities were. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to hear someone say that, oh yeah, the Bible's ridiculous, you're delusional, what are you doing? My friend, please, before you say anything, go and do your research,
Yeah,
Read.
please.
yeah,
But yeah.
Yeah. I'll say, I mean, one of the reasons why it's Christianity for me is, and this definitely does come with, having done research, research into like Islam and like Buddhism and other things. I'm not saying, if I'm honest, I'm not saying I ever looked into them as in like, I was questioning, becoming a Muslim or anything. But I was curious and I was like, why,
yeah,
why have I chosen this one?
yeah,
And I think one of the reasons for me is because in Christianity, um, you know, all the other world religions are focused on what we have to do to please God and what we have to do and the extent to which we have to do it and how perfect we have to make it for God to love us. And I think, in Christianity, it's, we love because we were first loved,
Mm,
and actually we can't earn our way into heaven, as Islam tells you you can.
yeah,
And that's actually, in my mind, I just think, well, thank goodness for that, because I'm constantly falling short and I'm constantly, failing. I can't uphold all of these things that, Islam, for example, so you have to do this every day. You have to do this X, Y, Z, X, Y, X, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And you think, but in Christianity, there's that sense of, don't worry, You
Yeah.
don't have to. You can't earn your way in. Jesus has paid the price so that you can,
Yeah.
you can come in. And I just think the burden that these people must feel is something I pray for all the time. And I don't, why Christianity for me is because that hope that we have, which is so secure, but at the same time it takes off so much from you. And I can't remember where it says it. Probably poor Bible knowledge from me, but it says my yoke is light and my burden
Yeah.
is soft. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it says, come to me because I'll take your weight off your shoulders, and that's immensely encouraging for me.
Yeah, and I think like it's that Bible verse. This is poor Bible knowledge for me as well. I don't know where it is, but it's about like that. All have fallen short of the glory of God. And
Mm,
it's like it's acknowledging that we're not perfect, and like
yeah.
we can try and be perfect. We're never going to be perfect, and actually,
Mm,
God knows that. God knows we're going to fail. God knows we're going to come down. I think it's not acknowledging that He's got that grace, that love to bring us up and bring us to heaven. But I think,
100%.
I suppose you pretty much answered that there. A lot of the times, you might get people that would be like, okay, so I'm acknowledging the fact there's a God, there's a creator to this earth. But why
Mm,
go for Christianity out of all these other things? Like, why do
yeah.
I know the Christianity's God is the correct God? And it's like all this thing. And I think you pretty much answered that there, like saying it's like, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've answered it. There's like, I don't really have anything else to add. But,
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not, if I'm honest, George will tell you, I'm not a very scientifically minded person. And I'm not very good at numbers and I'm not very good at science. But another thing, and this definitely links to what George was saying, is that like the evidence and there's a cross-reference diagram. Have you
yeah.
seen
Oh,
it?
it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's so
So
good.
I mean, there's stuff like that. I would say like the evidence that we have for the Bible and its accounts of things like creation, and it is the things like the detail that we see in life. If we're talking about creation, um, I think it's illogical and it actually doesn't make sense to take the atheist view of the Big Bang, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, so I watched my word, this is gonna be really annoying that I can't remember right now. John Lennox. John Lennox. I think it's John Lennox. Anyway, he's like a senior kind of professor guy. He's a Christian, and he was doing a talk at Oxford University or something. Yeah, Jasper is calling me right now, by the way. I don't know what he wants. I'm not picking up the phone.
Jasper,
Um,
honestly, mate, he
this
can
guy
clear off.
He can't get away from it, can he? He can't get away.
is calling me right now. Anyway, I'm not
Where
picking up
does
the
he know
phone.
you're busy at the moment?
I'm not calling him right now. Anyway, he's called me 3 times. That's annoying. Split up what I was saying. Anyway, um, yeah. So like the John Lennox was giving a speech at Oxford University, and he says, he basically says that, but in life, in that natural life right now, he asked these people who are all like Oxbridge educated scientists that like, and they're wanting to attack him for being a Christian, like they're all ready, and he says to them, where in your research have you seen something come from nothing?
Yes, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and he
yeah.
and he goes, and I thought to myself, I'm watching this, and I go, "Is this a trick question?" Because like it seems blatantly obvious that like that doesn't work. And he goes, two humans make a human. And he goes, like you look at seed fertilization or whatever, you need two parts for it to happen, and that is something that's made something, right? And he goes, and science tells you this, and we think science is logical and it makes sense, so we can trust it, right? But, well, I'm saying science kind of like an umbrella term, but the atheist view is saying that kind of thing. But the atheist view is telling me to believe that nothing can cause something, and that doesn't seem very logical to me. So, it's stuff like that where you just have to question it. And he says a good quote, which is like, this just proves that nonsense remains nonsense even when it's uttered by geniuses. And it's like
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can call Jasper back if you want. You can tell him. Should we call him
Should we
live?
do a little should we do a
Get him
little
on the
break and call Jasper?
You
get him
might
on the
want to tell
phone.
him you're on the podcast, but
I'll let him know right now. I'll FaceTime him.
see if he.
He's
Whilst we're
gonna pick
waiting,
up.
if he doesn't pick up, we'll go on to the next question.
Wait, hang on a second. No, it always does that the first time I call Jasper for some reason.
Whilst we're waiting,
Um,
if Jasper's going to pick up, the next sort of thing we're gonna move on to is about like the relationship with God, and we'll start on you guys as sort of such of saying like what you guys do in your personal relationship to God, what you guys. So like how you guys go along in your relationship, and
for sure.
on the personal level for you, and then we'll sort of go on to like how other people can get that relationship, how other people can strengthen their relationship, and those sorts of things. Is he picking up, Joe?
He's here right now. Hello. Yeah. Can I help? I'm on the podcast with George and Toby right now. Yes. How's it going? What do you what do you want? I'll call you back. Don't worry. Speak some wisdom. He's giving me tips. Speak some wisdom. Preach the gospel. Okay. Okay. You said do the cliff stance. Okay. Okay. Call me back at some point. Okay. Bye.
Oh,
What a
Joe, you
strange
turned off
guy.
the camera tracking. You could have done the cliff stance if you had your camera tracking on.
No, I could do it right now.
Go on then, let's see.
So what I was saying was effectively you want to you can't have life from non-life. It's illogical. It doesn't make sense. I can't do this,
I
man.
can't believe this is happening.
Okay,
Oh, this
right.
is crazy.
Let's
Anyway.
draw this back in together. Let's draw this back to your relationship with God. And Joe, to stop you from going off and doing the cliff stance again, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to start with you. What do
Okay.
you do for your relationship with God to strengthen your relationship with God? And what do you enjoy? No, we'll start off with what do you enjoy about having that relationship, and then how do you strengthen and do that, keep that relationship?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, why do I enjoy having that relationship with God? I mean, I'm a yapper. I talk a lot, okay? And someone's got to listen to me.
Yeah,
And so genuinely the most genuine sense I can mean, I have someone to listen to me and
Yeah.
and I know that he does listen to me.
Mm.
And I spend hours at night talking to God and just talking to him like I do anyone else. I just tell him my thoughts and I just tell him what I'm thinking about and I ask him for help and I thank him for everything. And I like, again, talking of creation, I use creation in my relationship with God to strengthen it and to be appreciative. I just look around and I think like, this is so cool. Like, what is this? Like, and I'm just saying like, thank you. And, talking to God, prayer is how I strengthen my relationship with God. Thank goodness we have a God that we can just talk to, at any time, any place, anywhere. That's why I enjoy that relationship with God because I can just have that anywhere. And, you just think, you got some worries you need to dump off somewhere. Just send a prayer up, and it's that simple, really. Prayers don't have to be long and complicated. They just have to be, you're just chatting to God, and I love having that. It's such a reassurance to me.
yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. What was that next bit you asked me? The second part of the question.
Well, it's sort of about how you strengthen. I said about what you enjoy and the strengthening. You sort of answered.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that about like I don't know, maybe what you do in the day to day about well, you said prayer. I mean, any other things you do you'd say that help keep your relationship with God strong?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think I definitely, my word, I briefly touched on it just now. And it's like appreciating creation because you can't avoid creation. You're always going to be in creation. Everything, everywhere you are all the time is creation. And so for me, just day to day, I think quite deeply about things. I just do. So like whenever I'm around the place, I'm thinking, like, this building was carefully constructed, and the places that I'm in, I sound quite I don't know. It's a strange thought process, but I look out the window and the things I see, I just think like that's so amazing that that's there and that's happened, and I thank him on the spot. I'm like, damn, like Heavenly Father, like this, your creation's so amazing. Thank you for it, and it helps me to stay appreciative. Helps me to stay grateful.
Appreciative. Yeah.
Same thing. Helps me to stay grateful. Helps me to stay humble, knowing that he's so much bigger than I am. And it just helps me to keep communicating with him because you can't have a relationship with someone you don't communicate with, and it's the same with God.
100%. I mean, George, what about you? What do you enjoy about having a relationship with God, and what do you do to like help strengthen that relationship?
Yeah. I mean, it's so incredible. Like it almost kind of whilst Joe was speaking, it was always kind of like almost emotional because you have the creator of everything there and you can talk to him.
It's
I
nuts.
honestly like just it's something that we can't take for granted. it is absolutely incredible. Um, and yeah, you know, he saved my life from sin, and he literally saved my life. I can't thank this guy enough for what he has
This
done.
guy, man.
And and the when I've kind of developed through my faith and fully understood how much he actually loves me, it is so hard not to love him like near anywhere somewhere near as much as that back.
Yeah.
It like I mean there were instances where I was kind of early on and I knew God loved me so kind of so much, but I didn't really know. So I was just like really struggling in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
And when I got to that point where I understood, even if I try and think about something that would take me away from him, like I just couldn't forget how much he loves me. Like I know it's kind of doesn't almost make sense for what I'm saying, but it makes me speechless. It
It
literally
grabs
does.
you. It
It
grabs you.
grabs you. And so in terms of kind of like strengthening this, I got to agree with Joe that prayer is the strongest thing you have to your use. It is something, like I said, we shouldn't take for granted. And ultimately, one of the best ways to kind of strengthen your relationship with God, reading your Bible. You know,
Mm.
it is extremely hard at the start. Everyone's, been through that period where it feels so lethargic, it feels kind of so
Yeah.
chory. Um, but when you get to that stage where you have such an incredible personal level with him, it becomes something you get excited for every day. So that is something that is huge. I mean, on the other hand, I have these little things where, I mean, last summer I tried out just going for a walk in the evening, um, and just kind of like walking around and thinking to myself about how incredible God is and how much He loves me and you know, how much He kind of like implements me. And yeah, that was really incredible. So finding your own little ways of connecting with God, kind of on your own level, I'd also suggest trying to find different ways like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think like one of the things you said there, which I really love, is like when that God saved you from sin. I think so often, if you speak to people who are maybe non-Christian as such, or Christians, and like you can state people have these things where they're struggling with these things, worldly things, which have they think have massive grips on them, and they do have massive like I said at the start, these chains wrapped around them, these chains holding them tight, and it's actually a fact of like God can break those. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah,
stories, and you've probably got stories, and you might have heard stories as well of like nothing's possible. God makes the impossible possible. Like He can do like you may have these addictions, these troubles and stuff, but actually, and you may think I can't go like a week without this or something. And actually, God's telling you like, no, we can make it. It's going to be a process. It may be hard, but as long as you're willing and you're willing to come to me, and you've got people around you to help you, I will help you, and I will like mentor you as such, like help.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want to like?
yeah. No, definitely. I think um, just for people out there in general, like however consumed you may feel, kind of by something, God is always with you through it. He will always provide. He will always have His hand in your life. And all I ask is you just fully give it to Him. You give it all to Him. Um, Obviously, like Joe was saying earlier, He takes all of our struggles onto His shoulders. He takes it off ours and onto His, and that's what we need to do when we have these kind of temptations or kind of chokeholds in our life. We
Yeah,
need to give it to God.
yeah, and
100%, man.
it may just be like that prayer of like that thing of like just a praying, be like, God, I give it all to you. Like, God, I
Yes.
need you to help me here. It's
Yeah.
that surrender. It's that saying, God, I can't do this on my own. Like, I lift my hands to you. Come and help me. Like, I know you. I need your help. I need your help through this,
Definitely.
and through that, He helps you. Yeah. So, and then sort of moving on a bit. Obviously, we've spoken about your guys' relationship with God, but often other people they may feel like, oh, this God's too high up for me, he's too loving for me, or something. Or they may even feel like, I don't know, I can't get this relationship started with God. But how would you say to other people, like, it's like, I'm trying not to answer it here and they're asking you the question, but like, how would you say, like, you can get that relationship going with God and you can grow in that relationship? And obviously, we touched on the fact of having those Christian people around you is one way we've all found it amazing growing our relationship. But how would you say to other people to
Yeah.
grow in their relationship, also get it started? And I know it's very easy, but that's coming from our perspective of we know. We're Christians, we know. But like to
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
who maybe doesn't know, how do you get that relationship started with God? Joe?
I'll say, yeah, if I can. I mean, in terms of just just to start with, the viewing of it, like, oh, it's too far. I'm not that kind of, I'm not that good kind of thing. And I would just say, if you're in that kind of mindset, you're thinking, God just seems too far off, and why would he want me? Why would he want me? Like, I can't have that relationship. I'd say, look at the disciples. Look at Jesus's first 12 disciples, right? And you look at how these guys were the most average guys out there. Like, literally they were. And not just that, but it's the way that the people that Jesus chooses very deliberately to hang out with, right, are sinners, and they're outcast people. They're people that the rest of society has said, we don't want you. And but the Son of God and God Himself says, I'll take that one. I want you. And so, you know, I mean, that is like, that hits me kind of, like, that's to me, that's incredible. Just the fact that he actually chooses very specifically the, you know, the one who's lost, the one who doesn't think they're enough. And, so I'd say, if that's you, just to start with this whole kind of what we're talking about, there's no, you know, deficiency. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no reason that you're ever going to be too far too far gone for Christ.
Yeah.
And that is just the most reassuring thing ever. In terms of kind of how do you get that relationship started? I mean, we were talking about, you know, surrounding yourself by other people who want that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. I mean, again, I'm quite a sociable person. I like talking to people, and obviously sometimes that can be hard because some people don't like, they find it difficult to interact with people, or they wouldn't choose to go and talk to a bunch of people because that, especially people you don't know, because that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But starting to look for those kind of networks, those people that you can feel comfortable talking to, who might have some answers, who might have some connections to a church or to a youth group, to an alpha course. It could be those kind of things where you look towards those kind of groups of people where they're going to help you to find what you're looking for, which ultimately is to start that relationship with Christ. So I think surrounding yourself with other people who are searching for that relationship is going to massively help you to kind of get that going for yourself.
Yeah. George, do you want to like?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're at that kind of school age, kind of developing, getting into that relationship with God and kind of being very outspoken with it is hard.
It's
There are going to
tough.
be there are
Yeah.
going to be a lot of people that don't agree with your beliefs, and may even drop comments or
Yeah.
be a little bit rude, go that extra mile to try and ruin your day. But I think when you're so established in knowing that you have such a strong relationship with Christ, all of that just doesn't matter anymore. I
Yeah.
just think about all these people that kind of may speak to me and say like, "Oh, what are you doing with your life? Like, go live." And I just think, Lord, they don't know what they're doing, and I
Mhm.
just pop a quick prayer and say, Lord, just watch over them, please.
That's a verse, isn't it? Like, Lord,
Encounter.
forgive them, for they do not know.
Yeah,
I don't
What they
know.
do.
I'm
that's what I was
paraphrasing
going
it.
for.
It was like, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do, or something. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Jesus
no,
on the cross, I
that was
think.
Yeah.
from Jesus on the cross.
Yeah,
So
there you
I
go.
think that was.
You guys are putting me to shame.
But yeah, no, that was that's kind of like what I think about a lot of the time, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't agree with it, and I just say, Lord, they don't know what they're doing. It's okay. And I just give them a quick prayer and move on. But I think also, like, touching on kind of what Joe was saying, um, a lot of people struggle to kind of think that they're good enough. You carry a lot of guilt, especially kind of realizing, oh wow, God's real. I am so guilty. And instead of kind of thinking about, wow, I'm guilty, I don't deserve it, think, wow, I'm so guilty, my hands are so dirty, but God can clean them.
Yeah.
Jesus has come down to earth, sacrificed. God has sacrificed Jesus on the cross so that our hands can be clean. And that's what I just kind of like to kind of tell people if they're really struggling with that guilt,
Yeah.
is that the reason that Jesus has come down is to save us from that guilt. So don't feel like that can turn you away from the relationship with God.
100%.
And I think like one of the things you're saying there is like that people dropping comments and stuff. And one of the first things when I first sort of like was getting comfortable with my faith and actually like started speaking out about it as such. One of the things, and I mean, we're going to touch on it later. It wasn't necessarily a comment, but one of my friends came to me and was like, if you believe in this Christian stuff and this God stuff, if all of that's real, why did my dad have cancer? And that is one of the most common questions I think.
God.
And we are going to get onto that. That's the final question. It's sort of like I've left the deepest one, the depthiest one till last and such. But hopefully we still have a bit of energy left at the end. But I think like that's such a common thing. And it's a lot of the time you have to chuck the classic cliff line of I don't know. Like
I do not know.
Yeah.
like and it's exactly the fact like I don't know everything. And a lot of the time people are like, that's not what I want. I want like I want an answer. Like you can't just hit me with the I don't know. But actually realizing you don't know everything in life. You don't need to know everything in life. If you do know everything in life, and it's like it's not life really. Like
Yeah.
it's not
No,
right.
definitely. I think this is something that I definitely would like to kind of add on, is that we can't prove a thing. We can't 100% prove a thing. What we base our faith and relationship off is the extremely strong evidence. Like I'm pulling a bit of a Cliff moment because people will start to recognize this. I'm gonna say this is from Cliff.
It's fine. Just plug it in. It's good.
You can't 100% prove everything. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. So this kind of maybe enlighten people that may not have that understanding is that we base it off evidence and the strong, reliable evidence that we have.
100%, man.
Amazing. Right. I think we'll sort of, unless you guys have anything you sort of want to add on about relationships and stuff, relationships with God, not relationships.
That's a whole other wormhole.
Yeah, man.
That question's not on the sheet, actually. Right, we'll move on to like how the living the life for God, and I think this can be a key one for a lot of people. You can just say I'm a Christian, or you can be the Sunday Christian, you can be the lukewarm Christian. There's so many different phrases out there, and there's so many different ways of putting it. But how do you guys personally? This is what we'll start off with. Live your life for God in the things you do, the way you act, the way you speak, the people around you, the people you influence. And obviously, you guys with your Alpha course, George, I know you do the Out of Nowhere thing with Jasper. Joe, obviously, you play the bass guitar a lot. I presume you have quite...
Yeah, that's me, man. Thank you.
No,
Good night.
let me finish my point. I was going to say how, like, there's probably a lot of people out there who you can influence, and we have an influence. A lot of the times, you don't realize how many people you influence and how much influence we have on people. I think, how can we live a life for God, acknowledging Him in the things we do? Like, I remember the verse for the day today, I think it is like, hold up. It's like something about
Get it up.
Put it up.
the glory of God. Actually, I'll quote it exactly and I'll say exactly where it's from. So I
I've
cannot.
got it. It's here. I've got it.
1 Corinthians 10 verse 31. So whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And I think that sums it up perfectly, pretty much.
Yeah.
Through everything you do. But let's get a bit more personal. Like in your guys' life, how in your just day to day do you live your life for God through the way you act, the things you do, and the people you influence? Joe, I'm going to come to you first again, actually.
Nice. Okay, wicked. Yeah, I mean, again, I actually said earlier, I'm trying to think of a different point because I don't want to be too repetitive, but like starting to appreciate everything, and like making sure that the first thing you do when you wake up is pray, and making sure that the last thing you do when you go to bed is pray, and it's thinking like that might be like really tricky for some people, and it was definitely really tricky for me to start with. But after 3 or 4 days or whatever, a habit starts to form, and putting God and Christ first in my life every day. Just with a really quick Heavenly Father, I don't know what's coming today, but I thank you that I've woken up another day, and I thank you that you've got a purpose for me today. Amen. Like something like that, or Heavenly Father, I slept really well, thank you. Like, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. And it's like, because it's the first thing you're thinking about is, you know, speaking to God, again, forming that relationship, making sure it is maintained. I'm doing a lot of Jasper hands. Damn.
We all love hands.
Um,
We all love
anyway,
the usual.
yeah, so doing you know, making sure that you're prioritizing speaking to God in your relationship with Him is so important. I think also, you know, in our day-to-day lives, you know, I was listening to a thing, I can't remember what, literally the other day. I think it was actually at the Elf course, and it was talking about how we're given spiritual gifts by the Lord. And
Mm,
you know, it might take years to find and discover those gifts for yourself. But obviously, as I've said, my gift, I believe, is music, and obviously, I can make music to, you know, and give that gift freely to people. And I think, you know, if I can gift that, give that gift to God freely, um, you know, day to day, then I'm absolutely going to do that. And that, whether or not that's listening to music is, you know, don't necessarily have to have that spiritual gift of listening to music because it's not, you know, it's not like anything crazy, but like listening to it, you know, figuring it out, thinking how am I going to, you know, convey this to other people, is kind of where I'm going with that. And, you know, using those spiritual gifts to honor the Lord, honor the Lord on a day-to-day basis, you know, whether or not your gift is speaking preachers. I think people are amazingly gifted with words and they can use those gifts to you know, praise the Lord. And I think making sure that we can kind of use what we're good at here on earth to prioritize giving praise to the Lord every day is just super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. George.
yeah. I mean, I think my answer for this question would have been a lot different, probably like 10 months ago. Literally, since
Okay.
September. Since September, it has, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
of
just
course.
cut that on the spot, but like just so people can know and like show the difference.
Yeah, yeah, of
Hit
course.
us with the 10 months ago answer. 10 months ago, George would have answered this question like
So, wake up. No, yeah. So, yeah, 10 months ago, I struggled to prayer. Honestly, like prayer
Mm.
was it was something I understood. I understood the kind of importance of it. Just really struggled to just remember to do it. To be honest, that really struggled with it. Reading the Bible, it was difficult. You know, I enjoyed it, but again, I just fell into things that I probably shouldn't have done instead of doing the Bible, like playing on the PlayStation.
scrolling
I
social
know,
media.
I know, but yeah, no, I definitely. I was, you know, praying and trying my best to kind of speak to people about God, and I was going to youth every week. So I was in there, but I really wasn't living my life for God to the full potential. But now, mate, it's amazing, honestly. Yeah, no, so honestly, prayer is such a huge part of my life. Doing it so frequently, it just helps your mind just itself. And then you have the additional amazing thing that God listens to you and can also speak to you and reply to you. That is incredible. But yeah, praying and kind of just setting up the out of nowhere was definitely a big shift for me as well. Me and Jasper kind of identified that we had this burning fire to get the word out there. And we just kind of brainstormed over a table at Wagamama's and thought about the best way of doing it, and came up with Out of Nowhere, which is all about, you know, getting the word out there and sending revival to this generation that so dearly needs Jesus. And like I said, as well as it hopefully um positively affecting others, it just progresses yourself. Like
Mm.
subconsciously, it is such a benefit to to me. And additionally to that, I'd also like to say that um kind of with that, it's great starting things that turn out really well, and you know, lots of people kind of get to learn about Christ more. Keeping myself grounded was a big problem because I used to I was a big numbers person.
Mm.
Back in the day, it was like, oh, 100 likes, get in. And so just grounding myself when, you know, I saw notifications come through and saying that this is all for the glory of God.
100%.
That was that was a big part. And so I'm really happy to kind of like have gotten past that stage and just knowing that this is all for God and I'm just someone who's kind of mediating in between.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
I
and
think.
yeah, the Alpha course is just sorry, sorry,
No, no,
I
it's
can let
fine.
you
I
speak.
love what you're going to say. And I think if you just might as well do the Alpha Course justice and mention what you guys got up to this Monday. Happened since you're about to
It
mention it.
is it is unreal. So we had the I think it was week 4 this week. Week 5, sorry, thank you, Joe. Yeah, so the past 4 weeks we've been kind of building up over the new Alpha course, introducing all these young people to kind of a bit of taste of what life would be like with Christ. And we had the Alpha Day, which is all about that Holy Spirit side of Christ and getting to know Him more on that relationship side of things. And it involved a lot of worship. Luckily, Joe was there as well, along with some other people to
Yeah.
play and sing. And yeah, so at the end of this, we kind of like Jasper went to the front and said, if there's anyone
Mate.
that would like to give their lives to Christ tonight, I'm going to do a countdown, and I'd like you to raise your arms. We told everyone to shut their eyes because
Close your eyes.
we didn't want anyone influencing anyone else.
Yeah,
And Jasper did a simple countdown with saying a few words in between, and 61 people raised their hands to say yes to Christ.
Like
Absolutely unreal.
61 kids, man.
61
That's
kids.
like
there's a
crazy.
generation on fire for Jesus, man. There is a generation
It
on.
really is. There really
Yes.
is.
Yes.
So yeah, honestly, that is just living my life for Christ, is getting involved, getting stuck in,
Mm.
um, and all praise to the Lord. Honestly, it is wonderful to be a part of stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had to quickly mention that because I'm sure Jasper would have been disappointed if we didn't.
Yeah, oh, 100%,
But also,
100%.
it's amazing to know, like George was saying earlier about the Alpha Course, and so many people love to hear about. Like I've had people ask me because they're like, "Oh, you've interviewed Jasper. What's he said about the Alpha Course?" So I don't even go to Bennett, and it's like it's the fact of like so many people know, and 61 people gave their life. That is just in a
It is
school. It's not
crazy.
like, would you imagine that?
I
Did
know,
you
it's
imagine that
crazy.
when you started the Alpha Course? Did you think you'd have 61 people giving their life to
We
Christ?
we didn't think we'd have 61 people turning up.
Yeah, the fact
As in, like,
that 100 people turned up was crazy to us.
we
Like,
prayed for it, obviously, but it was like you're getting. So yeah, we were saying the first session, we had people like tearing down the flyers in school saying like it's a joke, like don't go. And then we were going to start at 4, so we do kind of like a 4 till 5 thing. And at 3:45 we'll go flip. We're going to need more chairs. And we're in a massive hall, and we've got like 90 kids who are here, and we're going, hang on a minute, we're not starting for 15 minutes. And it's like, and you get people queuing to come in, and we're going like, people were laughing at us saying, this isn't going to happen, but the Holy Spirit's got other plans. It's like, it was ridiculous. And so, yeah, I mean, the response has been mental. And I mean, literally just today, actually, just today, and Jasper definitely won't mind me mentioning this. We were doing like we were leading like a little assembly thing. George, like mention it, and and
Oh, what does George want to mention?
no, don't worry. After we stop recording, I'll talk about that.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, no. So we were just we were doing a little assembly thing, and we get this little message from Reverend Rachel, and she's like so she actually says to Jasper, but so student from the Alpha has, of course, has asked to speak to you. I think he's got a few questions. And obviously I was there, and he was actually in my little group, so that's why I went along as well, because he wasn't in Jasper's group, and so we both went to see him at break time. And he was asking questions. So this guy's in year 7, right? Um, and he's asking, maybe he's in year 8 actually, but he's young. I think he's kind of 12-ish,
He's year
and
8, year 8.
yeah, he's year 8. He's 12, and he's basically asking, like how do I live like for Christ? And he's like, I've got some habits, and I'm not sure how to get rid of them, and I want to make sure that I'm living for God, and how do I do that? And me and Jasper are looking at each other like, this is so crazy.
Yeah,
This guy has, his parents. We then found out, we had a little chat with him, found out his parents were actually really amazing worship leaders. So actually, like he's got a little background, but at the same time, like very much so, really super curious. And he actually wrote Jasper a little letter and he handed it to him, and it was, it just says like, dear sixth formers, thank you so much for the Alpha course. It's really helped me to seek God, and search for Christ. And it just says, and Jasper specifically, you've been really amazing, or something like that. And I'm just there like, this is so wholesome. And,
Mm.
just to see the effect that it's been having. And just quickly to add on to that, we had a little youth event the other day at Christchurch, Tunbridge Wells, on the Sunday. I was helping out with some of the worship, and it was a really amazing event. We actually had a little moment where person who was leading it basically said, "Oh, we're going to give the microphone to some of you if you want to come up and share what's been happening at your schools recently. It'd be amazing to see what the Holy Spirit's been doing in your schools." And these two girls, they stand up and they say, "Hi, we go to Bennett, and we've been doing the Alpha course." And honestly, George was there. It was so emotional what they
It was,
said, and they just
yeah,
said how,
honestly.
they said how it's really changed them, as in like, just hearing about Christ's love for them and how the Holy Spirit moves and how it works. And they were saying like, they look forward to it and they get excited for it, and it just shows like the flame that's burning it. And literally, like, I was standing up the front crying like a baby, and Jasper was also in tears. George was probably crying as well. Anyway, it
Yeah.
was literally mental, and it was so genuine, is what I loved. And they both stood up, and they were pretty shy, but they were like, "I just want to tell you," and we were like, "We're gonna listen." And it was so spontaneous and so like from the heart that they just really loved how Christ was moving, and it was just amazing.
Yeah. Following, just quickly adding on to
Mm,
that, that wasn't the only outrageous thing to happen that night. Is that a
yeah,
further 6 to 8 people also
yeah,
gave their lives to Christ that night? It is unbelievable. We're getting so many people
Genuinely.
just putting their hands up and saying yes. It is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like
No
I've got
promo.
something to add.
I was putting my hand up for Jesus.
Oh,
I didn't have a question.
yeah. No, it's like genuinely, this generation is on fire for Jesus, and like the older generations, they love to hear about it. They love to know that there is
Mm,
this generation coming through, having this amazing passion for Jesus. And honestly, it is insane. It's like providing these opportunities, these worship events, these alpha courses for people to come and experience it.
mm.
I know there's another worship event possibly coming up soon, but it hasn't been confirmed yet, so we'll leave that.
Oh, exciting.
But yeah, it's like about having this generation which is just coming up of a massive fire and passion for Jesus, and it is absolutely insane. And yeah, we are going on for time, but it's fine. Who cares? We love going off on tangents.
Who cares?
Actually, going back, I've just remembered one of the main things, George, you were saying back about probably about 10 minutes ago now, is about like when like being grounded and not focusing on the numbers. And I
Mm.
think it's like literally we said that and then we went off on a conversation about numbers. But I think it's like it's remembering, like for me with the podcast, I yes, the numbers are cool. I like to reach people because the whole point is I want to do this podcast to share the story and share the story to people. And I presume with the Alpha course, like the whole point is you want to reach those people. So the numbers at some point, they're a good thing. They're a good way
Mm.
of showing people. But it's the fact of when you solely base it off the numbers and not what the numbers mean. So say for example, the 61 people, you could just be like, oh yeah, we had 61 people. No, it was 61 people who gave their life to Christ. That's what that 61 means. It's not just a 61 people, it's a people giving their life to Christ. And I think for me, if it would be like, oh, I had 15 people listen to this episode, 80 people listen to that, but actually, how many of them really got a connection with it, really got something through it? I'd much rather have 5 people listen and they give me some amazing message of saying how they got so much from it. For
Mm,
50 people who are just like, man, it's not too much. It's about what the numbers mean. Like, and I think
yeah.
Yeah.
that's because you can have, and it's those numbers are good sometimes. Like it's good to be able to be like and share, like rather than just saying, "Oh, people gave their life to Jesus." If you tell them 61 people gave their life to Jesus, they're like, "Oh yeah, come on!"
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
No,
that's a
definitely.
good number. And I think it's a fact of the intent behind the number, which is the key point there. And I just wanted to add that on there because someone might be listening, might be thinking like, they were just saying numbers are useless. Like, don't base yourself on numbers, self-grounded. And then we just went on about how numbers at Youth Alpha were like completely up. But it's about like what those numbers truly mean, what they truly
Yeah.
like.
yeah.
Those numbers aren't for you. they're for God.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're not for you. They're for God.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's also, I mean, it's 99 for the one as well. I mean, numbers. It's, as you were just saying, Toby. If you have 10, like you have 10 people listen to an episode, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not too happy about that. But like two of them gave their life to Christ after hearing something crazy. Then like that's two parties in heaven that are happening, and you're thinking like that's crazy. That's crazy, and you can't just brush over that. So yeah,
Yeah, 100%. And I think sort of like I'm going to draw it back to the questions now.
yeah,
Mm.
Obviously, still focusing on that life for God, but on a real subject here of temptation and sin. And I think this
Mm,
can be like, obviously, as there's this generation coming up and living for Jesus, a lot of the things with our generation is the peers around you, your non-Christian peers around you, the temptation to these worldly desires, these worldly things. I know we've previously touched on them as such. But when these temptations comes, we can be specific. We don't have to be. It's up to you guys. And it's like when these worldly things, these worldly desires come along, how do we try and resist? Because obviously we're all bound to sin. God has said we've all fallen short of the glory of God. But then intentionally also, how do we not just constantly go back? And I know I mentioned to George earlier, like before we started recording, one of the things of like one of my minds used to be like, okay, I'll just live my life a bit, going about doing all these things. Yeah, I know this good guy's real. And then when I get to about 20 or something, I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Now I'll start giving my life to Christ. I'll have a good youth as such. I mean, 20 is still your
mm.
youth, but I'll have like a good teenage years. And then I'll be like, oh, now I give my life to Christ. It's actually like, no, live your Christ for life now. And how do we acknowledge not going back to those temptations, not like a dog goes back to its vomit? I really don't know that. Oh, my scripture knowledge is off today. I don't know where anything's from.
The I say, like, just if I may, I know I feel like I've spoken quite a lot, a bit like
No, no,
No,
it's
go
so
for it.
good,
go,
man. It's so
but
good.
no, yeah, I think I want to be, maybe I want to be honest as possible here, and just saying like it's for me. I think as much as I struggle, just as everyone else does with every other sin, um, the one that I probably grapple with the most is kind of, as the Bible describes it, sexual immorality. And I think the Bible describes sexual immorality as a massive range of things, but I think just the kind of umbrella term of lust is something that we struggle with, and it's obviously you know it's obviously that kind of wrong sexual desires. And I think, humans are sexual creatures, and, we have those, what's it called? Like natural instincts and those kind of attractions that we have. And obviously in the Bible, the Bible's very clear, it's super clear about kind of the guidelines, the kind of the blueprint that God has put in place for sex, and where it should happen, and where those thoughts should be. And when those thoughts definitely should not be happening, and those actions that shouldn't be happening. And I think that is something that I like very openly am still grappling with, and will probably continue to, as sin is difficult and it gets you. But in terms of kind of what I'm trying to do about it is what we're talking about. And I think so there's a passage again. Not sure where it comes from, but
We are so off our
it's
game today.
oh, man. Honestly, we're not. I'm not on good form right now. But it's obviously very super famous, and it's if your right eye is causing you to stumble, then gouge it out, and cast it away, because it's better for your whole. It's better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be chucked in fire. And effectively, what it's saying is,
Now get
if
your
there's
line.
something, you take your eyes out. No, don't worry, dear listeners. Don't go, cutting your arms off. But obviously, it's saying here, if there's something in your life that and you can tell, and you've acknowledged is causing you to sin, and in with lust and with sexual sin, there's you can it's quite easy to pin that down sometimes, and the Bible is very clear that you should get rid of it. You got to get rid of that, and you've actually got to run from it. You've got to run
Mm.
fast from it, and because it's actually better. It's much much better for you, and to not have that now, and to have that glory in the end, than to have that now risk it all. And actually, it will never truly satisfy you. It never will. And you can, and one of the reasons why you can tell and how you can tell that it will never satisfy you. And actually, this is going to tie to what I'm trying to do about it. And one of the reasons why you can tell it's never going to satisfy you is because you keep doing it. The water that you drink, you'll thirst again. When Jesus is talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, but the water that I give you, uh, is living water, and you'll never be thirsty. And so, we can look at Christ and the hope that the Bible gives us, and think that this is always going to satisfy me. But this, what I'm doing, the sexual sin or the temptation that we're struggling with, whatever it is, I'm just using that as an example, is never going to satisfy us, and we can know that because you'll do it again tomorrow, or whatever, whatever it is. But it's telling myself that is how I actually try and grapple with it. Obviously, prayer is really, really helpful for me, and it helps me to go, certain periods of time feeling really good about it. And
Yeah,
obviously, then when I fall back again, you got to come
yeah,
back to God. But it's telling yourself that it's temporary. It's never going to satisfy, but Christ will and always does. Is that encouragement for me?
yeah. I mean, quickly, George, I'll come to you in a sec. I just want to quickly add on to that,
Mm.
like those, especially that sexual immorality, like it becomes so normalized in our culture today. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
for example, to look at someone in like a lustful way or something, or to
Mm.
think those sorts in, it's like it's so normalized. It's so like
Yeah.
it's not even seen as like outrageous or like such. And I think it's hard to be different. It's hard to be like no. It's hard to actually
Mm.
say I'm sorry, I'm different. And like it's the fact of being like, okay, maybe I actually need to like step out of the line of what my friend group's doing and actually go that way or something as such. And it's such a hard thing, but I think like you were saying about that, it's never going to truly satisfy you. And like when you're saying there about you got to run, but you got to run fast, because a lot of the times the devil will realize this is something which you're weak. This is a weakness for you. This is a way you. This is an area such you struggle. Whether whatever that is for you personally, the devil will realize that, and he will use that. He will use your weaknesses against you. And I think so often that's when you've got to really run. That's when you've really got to
Mm.
try and draw near to God, because because the devil knows that's your weakness, but God's also there to support you. So when you run to God, you got to run fast, and you got to earnestly seek God in that situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Over to
Um,
George.
yeah, George, 100%.
Yeah. Um, I definitely kind of have a sport mentality when it comes to this thing. Um, Temptation is extremely tricky. It's gonna happen whether you like it or not. Um, Lustful is something that I definitely struggle still with, let's be honest. It still happens. And yeah, definitely alcohol in the past was a massive issue. Um, and yeah, it takes a massive kind of grip hold on you. And yeah, it's so hard to kind of battle with it. But my automatic sport mentality just turns it into a massive dogfight. The devil is always going to be there. He's always going to be trying to get into your head. But that kind of, I know I'm saying sport mentality a lot. I know, but this is kind of how I go about it. It's kind of like, it's the fifth round. I'm weak in the knees. Devil's just had a drink in between round 4 and 5. He's ready to go. But
Mm.
I've got God. I've got the knockout punch. I'm just ready to go. I'm about to go for him. So it's I'm very fortunate to have that mentality. And let's be real, I wouldn't have that mentality without God. So it's very difficult, and everyone has their different ways of going about it. But we all have one thing in common, is that we all go about it with Jesus.
Yeah, 100%.
Preach.
I think I love that sport mentality you were talking about there. And actually, I'm going to talk about that sport as such, but in a such maybe different way. With me, with my sport, sometimes humility is such a hard one as well.
Mm.
And whether it's humility in sport, it can be humility in anything.
Mm.
Like the amount of times I can't remember where, but if you look in some of the Gospels, it starts off and it just says like Paul. Oh, here we go. And then this is Romans here. Paul, a
He's
servant
got
of
the Bible.
like the way the humility the disciples as such start their books and stories about God. It's just bringing themselves right down. Like Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus, a servant, man. Like not even like a disciple, a servant. Like who
Mm.
is
He
willing
gets right
to
to
call
it.
himself a servant? He's put himself right at the bottom underneath Jesus, and I think, and Jesus in so many examples brings himself humble. She's so humility. He's so like he has a real sense of humbleness
Humble.
in him. And I think that's something we should earnestly seek for and try and learn about because it is like, and people notice it. And sometimes it's hard to be like, people say, like, oh, what's your aim? It's to win. And it's like, it's the thing of to say, oh, well, do you lie and say, no, I want to lose? Or do you say, no, I want to win? It's actually, no, I just want to play my best. Or no, I just want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
play my best and do it all for the glory of God. And actually, that in turn helps you to move on from these maybe tough results as such, or these things which you're not expecting, because you're like, I did it all, I did my best, I did it for the glory of God. What more could I have done?
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
It helps us to always know, to always give our best in all we do, to do it all for the glory of God. And I think I can't remember what I said, but I was saying something the other day, and someone was asking me, "Oh, how do a bit of help on this?" And I was like, "Imagine you're doing it for Jesus. Imagine you're doing it for God. You're putting in that maximum effort. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well.
But you
You're
tried.
putting,
Yeah.
I remember it was GCSEs. Someone was saying like, and I was saying, imagine. I know it's a bit weird, but imagine you're doing your GCSEs for God. If you do them, if you do your best, you do your best. God will have a plan. Like God's plan isn't for you to fail your GCSEs as such, but if you're
Mm.
doing your best for God and you're putting your almost in it and you're giving it all to Him, He will provide a way no matter the outcome.
Yeah, no, definitely. On that kind of doing your best type of thing. I mean, you can go and fact check this. I've been in the same club for football in Langton Green for since I was 5. And up until 17, I never won a league. We were consistently the worst. And before I say this, I'm not saying my faith impacted how much I won, okay? But it's more about exactly how well I did, how doing my best for the glory of God. And it came to the start of last season, and my faith had got to that point where it was like, fire, I want to do my best. And we went undefeated for the first time ever and won the league. I captained the team all the way, and I know that's kind of like a bit of a weird one, and it's kind of like glory for myself. Um, but staying humble in that and saying, "Wow, how great is the Lord, allowing me to play this beautiful game," and the fact that I can do my best in that to try and show some sort of appreciation for what He's done for
Yeah.
me. Um, and yeah, but definitely do not take my word for whoever's listening to this. Because you pray a lot doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I
I
think
guess it's yeah. Sorry, yeah.
no.
Um,
You go.
it's kind of the whole yeah, not my will but yours, and is what we're kind of talking about. Um, and yeah, I mean, you guys have spoken about sport and like being humble in sport, and I'm in a bit of a tricky situation because it's not anything that I can like um really speak about at the moment. But like I'm in a band, and obviously like things are kind of like getting kind of interesting with the band and like where that's going to go um in the next kind of like few months and like in the next kind of the near future.
I won't clip this, so someone will have had to listen all the way through to an hour and 15 to hear this. So
Okay, fine. Okay, well, it doesn't, I'm not worried too much in that case. But yeah, there's obviously things that are kind of getting more exciting about with the band, and obviously I have to kind of remain grounded and not get too um overexcited. Not obviously first because nothing's guaranteed, um, and that's just the way it is in the industry. But also just because I have to remember, my life is not about me. My life is not about me. It's not about getting all this and getting all that and take. It's actually all about serve, and actually, you know,
yeah,
what God's plans for me um, are actually for His glory and my good, not for my glory. And just keeping that in mind. I guess whatever we're going through, stay humble.
yeah. most definitely. And I think it's such like a key component of like remembering God's given us all a gift. Like you may have not found that gift straight away, you may have not found that gift at the moment, but God has given us all a gift. Whether that is being able to speak to people, or whether that's an actual like tangible gift as such of being, I don't know, really talented at something. God has given us all a gift, and actually, when we discover that gift and when we actually really blossom in that gift, it can be so easy to be like, "Oh, this is like, look at me, I'm really good at this."
Yeah.
Really, really, like for example, like you were saying earlier, Joe, like you're a very outgoing social person. In my youth group, a lot of people would say I'm quite a talkative person. I could be like,
Mm.
"Yeah, look at me, I can talk to everyone." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's no, it's saying like, yes, I can do it, but actually, like, I'm not doing it for the fact of boasting and showing off to everyone. Like, for example, with my running, I can run fairly quick, but am I going to go out to everyone and be like, look, 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 race me, race me, race me, or something or such?
Yeah.
It's actually, no, it's like, it's that staying humble and like, okay, yeah, today's a race, today I'll actually run my full potential, but I'm not going to like absolutely go somewhere and be like, oh, I'm going to smash this because I want to show off all these people. I want to show them how good I am at this, maybe how good my bass guitar playing is. Look at this. It's actually no, like, this is for a reason, this is for a purpose. And remember, it is like, it's for the glory of God. Sorry, we've repeated ourselves, we've gone off on tangents, but
Yeah.
we're
All
just
for the glory of God.
I thought you were about to say something. I thought you were about to add on something, and I rushed said, "All for the glory of God." Yeah. So just before we go on to the last question, I'm gonna after this last question, I will ask you guys if you've got any other like things you want to add in, any questions you want to ask us to or me, whatever. So I'm just giving you a heads up now before we get onto that last sort of question. Well, after the last question, so you have a bit of time to ponder or whatever. But the last sort of question is this deep question. It's the question well, it's not the question you've been dreading. It's probably one of the most common questions we get around Christianity. When these hardships come in life, when these bad things happen, when these tough times happen, how do we get through them? And how do we say to someone like, there's still a God, there's still an all-loving God out
Yeah.
there, even though this is happening?
Yeah.
It's a real tough one. And before any of us answer it, we're not 100%. I'm answering you on your guys' behalf here. I'm saying we're not 100% sure.
Yeah, not sure.
We're not giving you a correct, definite answer. This is what we know. But George, yeah, what you said.
Yeah, it is such a difficult topic. And the amount of kind of Instagram reels that I see of people kind of just in hospital beds and fighting for their lives and kind of thinking to myself, why on earth has this person been put in this position? It is so difficult. And it's almost to a point, where do you start? And I'm thankful that you kind of said on our behalf that we do not know. It is such a tricky topic, but I think in terms of trying to answer this the best I can, probably not putting the blame necessarily fully on God, but instead looking to God and saying, I'm thankful for what you've been able to do so far, and I'm thankful that this person is going to a better place now. It's I'm actually going to have to ask Joe to help me out on this one, because
Yeah.
I mean, I've recently had had a loss in the family, and it didn't necessarily affect me much, um, and so, but I still kind of had, those feelings of, this is just terrible, and it was kind of a bit of a long process, and luckily I have that faith to think, well, he's going to be blessed in such a great position now, and like you said, it is so hard to turn around to someone who might have a relative fighting with cancer and say
Mm.
that you don't know,
Especially when they
So-
don't believe as well.
especially when they don't
Yeah.
believe. So Joe, I mean, if you have anything to say on this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually just I'm looking at the book of Job, in the Bible, and obviously, um, I think it's a good place to start, thinking about the problem of evil and the problem of suffering in our world. To look at some of the stories from the Bible, and to look at these true stories that we can that we have at our disposal, and look at some of the suffering that's there, and look at how these people kind of dealt with it, and actually, I guess the long and short of it is how God remains faithful. and how his plans are to prosper you and not to harm you, which is Jeremiah something 19:11, something 11, 23:11, I don't know, something like that. So yeah, I mean, in the book of Job, for example, Job has everything taken from him.
Mm,
He has everything taken from him. He has his health taken from him. He has his possessions taken from him. And Job dies at the end of the book. And obviously, you know, he dies and he has really, really quite horrific, awful things that happen in his life.
Yeah,
Um, and but the thing is, he truly, really, truly, he you know, he remains faithful. And it's incredibly difficult. For him, it's not easy. And but you have to look at kind of God's how he's presented in the book and how what he's trying to tell us in that book. Obviously, you look at how God and Satan, converse with one another, and it might initially seem that it's God's fault that this is happening to Job, and like God has done this to Job, because like there are bits where it says the Lord restores Job's fortunes, or it says Satan attacks Job's health, and you see well, hang on a minute, God's letting this happen, right? And I think it's really easy to jump into that, and it's you just have to be careful. And again, we have to preface everything with a big cliff I do not know, kind
yeah,
of thing. And it is really hard to just think, yeah, it is really hard to just to think about that and to rebuttal, how it seems to be, if God is causing these things. But the fact that he remains faithful, the fact that he keeps his promises, for me is something that is incredibly reassuring. And actually, that is something that I would, I'd try and offer someone that advice, or not advice, but like I try and say that to someone, when they're struggling, even though it is incredibly difficult to hear. There's also the Book of Psalms, which a lot of it is just David moaning at God. Um,
mm,
and like literally it's just him saying like, I'm really unhappy at the moment. Um, you know, and David was a man who, had it all, and made all the mistakes, and but also worshipped and loved God tirelessly,
yeah,
and he was, incredibly faithful, uh, even in the midst of his sin and his sorrow. Um, and actually, I just think there are so many examples in the Bible where we can look at suffering, and see how people dealt with it, and see how God was there in that. He was present the whole time, which is a constant. And I just think having that constant in our minds is really good.
yeah. And I think like if you're struggling with those times, a lot of it can be hard. But actually look in the Bible. Like it may be the last thing
Yeah,
you want to do. It may be the last like you maybe cry out to God and it's actually me. But actually like in the Bible, there's so many and I saw the other day, I saw something about a story of Hannah in the Bible. And I was like, I've never heard of a Hannah in the Bible.
yeah,
Like there's so many stories in the Bible of people
mm,
who maybe have gone through similar things. Like and it's the but like you were saying at the start, George, the Bible is like pretty much entirely proven true. Like these stories are there to help us. They're to help us grow in our faith and just in our life from God, from Jesus, from these like from people who have grown up with Jesus and use them to our benefit. Like, we have this book. We don't have Jesus down with us in our life like the people in the New Testament did. But what do we have? We have the Word of God and we have their testimonies, their stories in
yeah,
the Bible. So we can use that to help us grow and go through those hard times. So I think as much as it, like you were reading from there, Joe, you were reading from that Job and say about Psalms and stuff, how it may be the last thing you want to do is to open your Bible and read about someone else suffering. It can
yeah,
actually you realize that like, okay, it's not just me actually, and see how God is working through from like an outside perspective on someone else's life. And actually sometimes I think it could help you get almost a new perspective on it.
yeah, absolutely, man, 100%. So yeah, I know yeah, George, it's definitely more tricky for you to speak about at the moment, which I definitely understand.
it's yeah, I definitely think kind of from the perspective of someone who may be listening that has lost someone recently due to it, and are
Yeah,
kind of like pointing fingers and blaming God. It's, it's so hard to kind of say, just maybe take a step back, and try and look at a bigger picture, and rather than going to God and saying, why have you done this? Why have
Yeah.
you caused me so much pain and suffering? Instead, go to God and say, I thank you for how much you have done for me, and I lift the pain and suffering onto you, and I
Yeah.
pray that they're in a better place now, and that they're in your comfort and in your presence.
100%, man.
It's definitely a tough thing. I think it is that, like, so often people just say, like, look at the bigger picture. Like, that's probably the go-to phrase you hear people say to you. But I think it is actually like, try and look at it from that out, like, try and almost like take yourself out and look at it from
Outside
that.
the box.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And actually, like, and then once you look at it from that perspective, then read through the Bible and see how there's very similar stories, perspectives. People have then prayed to God and stayed continually praying to God through those tough times. So that's sort of like, I mean, you guys can add on to stuff if that as well if you want, but that sort of brings us to the end of the questions. But did either of you guys have anything you wanted to add in? Any questions you wanted to say? Anything else that's sort of been on your mind? Oh, yeah.
Oh, Joe first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just going to be honest here. We were talking way earlier on about, how there's a generation on fire for Jesus at the moment. And I just want to say to you, Toby, like, what we're doing right now is amazing. And I
Yeah.
actually just wanted to say to you, um, well done. And I just want to say, like, thank you. And I want to say that, again, it's not for your glory, mate, but,
Glory to-
but, and I'm not,
He's just trying
I'm,
to
pra-
boost my ego here.
listen, I'm praising you for your eagerness to praise the Lord, and I think that is due. And I'm not sure how many people have said that to you, but I just think that you're doing a really amazing thing. And none of us are experts, but we're just lads that talk about Jesus and talk about faith and life and faith, and people need to hear that, whether or not it's through podcasts or whether or not it's through person to person. But I just think I'm really grateful to you that you're doing this, and especially because you're like a year and a half younger than me, which is kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, just man, well done. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And I think like one of the key things, like obviously we say about this generation on fire, and it's actually showing them there's people out there of all ages. Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm trying to focus on like 20s, teens, like that sort of age.
Mm.
That's sort of like we can like this is a generation, this youth, young adults generation. There, I mean, I was seeing some clips of the Send recently up in Glasgow. I don't know if any of you saw.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
amazing. Like I think it was mainly young adults and some youth, like all their 40. I think it was 40,000 people or something.
that's
It's
all right. That's nuts.
insane. Like it's genuinely insane. I think it's me being able to share people's stories, bring them together, and I say it every single time. So I'm thankful this is at the end because otherwise people probably get bored of it in the middle. But like, it's the same questions, yet so much different stuff is said. So many different stories are said.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yes, soon I may have to change the questions a bit, but like, it's the fact that there's so much different stuff said. There's so many different stories, different perspectives being shared. I think it's like, I mean, yes, like having you guys on to share about the Alpha and Bennett again is so good because so many people love to hear about it. Honestly, you don't understand how many people have said, "Oh, hearing Jasper about." It's like
It's pretty sick.
there's people out there that want to know about it, and like the audience, the people that listen to this, they're all ages. They're like, it's not just you that listen to it. I think it's inspiring other people, and genuinely, like, it's a gift I think God's given me, and it's be able to use it, like we were saying earlier, to the glory of God, and being able to do it for the glory of God.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and he's back.
Well, that draws the recording to a close.
There you go.
You can pick up.